over 9% of the population watch this show. 75% of our population, 230 million people of our population in America, claim to be Christians. How many of you watched American Idol? Idol. The television show's name, American Idol, should ring loud bells. Let's talk about melodramas like House, MD, or perhaps Fringe, which the media tries to portray man as the one that solves the world's woes, but never mentions God as an answer to the world's problems. Instead, God and Jesus is laughed at, ridiculed, and even cursed on national television. Maybe not on those two shows, but I have heard it done. What things replace God on television but sex, drugs, and even idolatry? To make it even worse, it is all an open sight for all to see on national television. Prophecy through Thomas S. Gibson. Thus saith the Lord, repent and listen to the word of God. Note that there shall be persecutions arising in all places, throughout the United States and Canada, and through Europe. These nations shall rise up and persecutions against my people. It shall purge the church. Those of mine that are truly mine, who walk in the power and committed to me, they shall stand in their persecution, no matter what it brings. But listen to me and heed me, for thus saith the Lord, I am God, and I am allowing this, for it shall purge my church. For there are many that shall quickly deny me, shall quickly deny the truth, quickly revert to a world religion, shall quickly deny the power of the word. They deny the truth of the word. They shall quickly deny many things, and they shall become politically correct for the day and the age they would live. For they do not want to be in persecutions, and they do not want to stand against the word. They love the world, and they are part of the world. They were never part of me, but they have a form of godliness in the church, and they were in the church, shining as Christians and looking as Christians in the outward appearance. But in their heart they were not of me. This shall purge the church and bring it to pass that I have said. It will split the sheep from the goats, that is my people from the world. Also, before I begin, I want everyone to know what was told to Elaine Durham by God in a book she published called Death and Back, Vision of Coming Calamities and Triumph, A Changed North America. As the angel pointed in front of me, a wide view of land and water opened up, so that at first I thought I was seeing two countries. Instantly it was made known to me that I was looking at a vastly changed portion of North America, which was completely divided by a large body of water, and which had lost a large part of both eastern and western shorelines. As I saw this, I was given a total understanding of the natural and man-made disasters that would need to occur to make these changes. And I was informed that these might or might not come to pass according to our choices as a people, according to my choices as an individual. Now that I went over the why this country is being judged, I'm going to go over the judgments in order that God has told the prophets of today, that not too many have listened to and heeded their words. Not all these judgments are going to come true, but for the most part, pre-tribulation must happen with America, being invaded to cleanse the church and prepare us to be part of Christ's kingdom, heaven. Since we are in these times to be the bride of Christ, and we are to carry our cross, carrying the cross, I believe, literally means every one of us, even myself, must give up our lives as Christians in order to gain our lives in heaven. Before I go into judgments, there is another reason why America is to be judged, and Dimitri Duduman has talked about it in his vision, but I'm going to go over it here today. This country as a whole, regardless of what Obama says, is a Christian nation. I believe our founding fathers were, for the most part, God-fearing people, and the Constitution was a God-ordained document for this country. That document alone has kept this nation together, as no other document has. There is no one country in the world as free as America is today, even with all that has happened. The Constitution allowed God-chosen people to escape tyranny by the hands of the Nazis and flee to the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our judgment started when these people, the Jews, fled from Germany, France, and made America their new home. 7 million Jews made America their new home away from home. I am not being anti-Semitic when I say this, because I've always admired the Jews and their ingenuity, and above all else, their love for God. I even buy most of my camera equipment from the Jews. In fact, what's being recorded here is from the Jews. God has graced his people with abundant wealth, of which I have no problem with. Today, however, the Jews of America have divorced God from their lies and the living in sin and moral deprivation. The Jews of America are solely responsible for the porn that has forever corrupted this nation and many people's hearts. The Jews are responsible for the news networks, since they own them lock, stock, and barrel. The networks as a whole keep the majority of this nation sheeple, believing that things are always the same and will never change. The communist motto, as it was stated on House MD by Lisa Cuddy's mother, as it was stated on House MD by Lisa Cuddy's mother, over 70% of the Jewish people in America are atheists. Atheism equals communism. The Jews have also corrupted the Jews in Israel, and as such, the Jews in Israel do not place their faith in Jesus Christ, but place their faith in the Jews of America and their wealth. Not to mention that for the most part, the Orthodox Jews do not believe Jesus Christ is their Messiah who came back to save them from their sins. They are still waiting for an earthly king. I'm sorry if what I said above offends some people, but I have to mention it as a big deal when trying to describe all the things that will happen to this nation. It's time for this nation to understand that judgment has already begun for America and the world. If you need proof, just look at the BP oil spill that many thought was done and over with, and today is leaking again, and BP is saying it could leak until exhausted itself. That could alone take 30 years. You also go on to realize that the Japanese earthquake, tsunami, and still impending nuclear accident at Fukushima, which was prophesied by David Wilkerson and many others in the demarcation in time and another judgment on America and the world. Dangerous radiation has leaked around the entire world, including the U.S., in a form of cesium, iodine, strontium, plutonium, and many other particles, which take centuries to decay completely. Ask yourself if the news media has told you the truth of Fukushima yet. The answer is a resounding no. So far, 90% of the seas of the world have been ruined by oil and radiation leakage. The Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and the Pacific are included in this. As bad as these catastrophes were, these are only the beginning of sorrows, and the Bible describes this pre-tribulation period we are entering. For the next part of this sermon, I am going to be using a timetable that God has given me in a vision. God spoke from above and said we would have 10 years before the worst would happen to America. And I still today believe that to me, the occupation of America by foreign forces, Russia and China. In my vision, a cloaked character stood before a post-it board on an easel, head face down. His face was shrouded in black and was not discernible. I believe him to be our next president after Obama. The post-it board had a triangle with post-it note cards, 4 at the bottom, 3 above that, 2 above that, and 1 above that. All those post-it notes, I believe in my heart, are years till tribulation of the Christians. Each of those years, I believe, has at least one major event happening until tribulation and the end of our country as a nation. It's no coincidence that 2010 started with the BP oil spill and now 2011 the Japanese tsunami earthquake nuclear disaster. None of those are by chance. It's no coincidence that 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 equals 10 years and 10 major events, of which right now I'm going to show you a triangle picture of what God drew for me and how these events lead up till tribulation. Note that we are in 2011, so this is year 2 of 10. Year 1 equals 2010, year 10 equals 2020. Now is the fun part of this. Breaking down certain events and how everything is to play out until the year 2020, when America is no longer America. I've created a timeline leading up to the occupation of America in 2020. In the timeline, I've added the prophecies and visions in the order of which I think they will all happen. Again, they might not all happen in this order, but most of them have to happen. It's like a Macy Days parade. The turkey float has to be there. It can be first, it can be somewhere in between or last, but it has to be in the parade. You can't take it out of the parade or it's not a Macy's Day parade. So I'm going to show you in a timeline, one section at a time, what the events are going to be and the order they're going to be that I think they're going to be in. That does not necessarily mean they will be in this order. It's just the logical order I think they'll be in. And then I'm now going to show you a picture of the Mormon prophecy and how they think it's going to be, which is much worse than what I say. 10 years time we have. They think we only have 3. So we're going to see who's more right on this. Now, as many of you see, I have 2 charts here. One is mine and the other personal beliefs and how things will happen, and the other is Roger K. Young's timeline of pre-tribulation, which shows that around 2013 will be invaded. This is the belief of the Mormon Church as to when this country will be invaded, and this timeline is only speculation. I'm not saying the events on the chart are wrong in any way, just the timing is off. You will see I've used the events on my chart because those are steps leading up to communism, and they must happen in that order for our nation to turn against God. There is no way around it. I truly admire Roger and the LDS Church, even though I'm not a Mormon. As all of you already know, I'm not speaking out against any one Christian faith, as that will never help the cause of Jesus Christ. We all, as one church body, need to come together in the end of all this and recognize we are all God's people. When that happens, not if that happens, there will be no end to the miracles all of us can achieve as a great people of God. Now, next part, I'm just going to condense it and make it paragraph form so you can follow along. Shades of Gray, 2010 to 2013. Israel is split apart and the U.S. split apart by God. New Madrid earthquake and Pasadena earthquake. Nibiru is seen in presidential elections in 2012. It's not Elenin. Obama fired or assassinated by Al-Qaeda. On the interpretation of the timeline I provided and some things that are already in process as I speak, Elenin, as many have talked about in recent days, has been split up by an explosion of sorts. Either God ordained or man-made. Either way, it's what God intended to happen. This has caused the comet to split into pieces, which, upon observation, looks like two pieces. And I'm, however, going to say it's really three pieces Elenin was split into, which coincide with Augusto Perez's and his prophecy here and here. Here is an interpretation of events happening in the heavens that coincide with revelation as Elenin passes constellations in the sky. What Augusto didn't see coming was the comet splitting apart into three separate pieces. I believe that these last 3 years and Elenin events in the sky are warning to Christians to act as Jesus Christ, because the world is soon to change. This coincides with Catholic prophecy posted here on this page as Elenin being a last warning from God. On my timeline, you will see in brackets from 2010 to 2013 as shades of gray, as these are just glimpses of things to come. The BP oil spill, Japan earthquake, nuclear accident, and Elenin are signs of the worst things to come for this world. There are 2 major earthquakes about to happen this year. I think most of them occurring between the end of September 11 and the middle of 2012, possibly stretching into the beginning of 2013. The first prophecy talks about a great New York earthquake and cracks it will cause across the whole nation. This is God's spiritual veil being lifted on this nation. God has been slowly removing his protection on the United States, and it is separating the bride of Christ from the lukewarm Christians and goats. I believe the New York earthquake will morph into the Great Lakes and start of the New Madrid earthquake, as this prophecy talks about. This also coincides with Nathan Leal's prophecy of liberty being decapitated. These cracks from the New York earthquake will cause the California earthquake around Pasadena, as this prophecy talks about. As to what really caused these earthquakes is what God is hiding from all of us, talked about in this prophecy, and I'm saying this is Nibiru wormwood, and Nibiru wormwood is not Elenin, as we are led to believe by the scientists and elect. See this video on YouTube on Nibiru wormwood sighted at the South Pole at Niemeyer's research facility. People's question to me on this blog is why the earthquakes so soon. I believe the earthquakes are going to happen because the UN and the US will split Israel apart, and thus God will split the United States apart, and it will be the New Madrid fault, and then the Pasadena, California. How much land and life is lost on Israel will determine in magnitude how much life is lost in the United States. I, like everyone else, seem to think that it is ironic that this vote happens on Peace Day, when everyone says peace, peace across the entire world, when Israel is split and divided to make Palestine a statehood. This will also happen near the end of September, when Elenin is closest to our planet. This is also ironic.